Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating and kind of complex media theory. The big idea here is that the stories we watch, the language of cinema, well, it isn't just entertainment. It might actually be shaping our reality right under our noses in ways we don't even see.
Okay, so to kick things off, let's talk about a classic film idea, the MacGuffin. You've definitely seen this in a Hitchcock movie, right? It's that glowing briefcase, the secret plans. It's the thing everybody is chasing. But here's the kicker, the MacGuffin itself, it doesn't actually matter. At all. Its only job is to get the whole story rolling, while the real action, the stuff that truly matters, is happening completely off to the side.
So here's where it gets really interesting. This whole explainer is built around one huge question. What if the future is today's ultimate MacGuffin? Think about it. Our collective obsession with predicting the future, building it, stressing out about it, what if all of that is just a massive distraction? Something to keep us all busy while the real story is unfolding somewhere else. The quiet, continuous tuning of how we see the world.
All right, so how does this whole thing work? Here's our game plan. We're going to talk about why the future is a MacGuffin. We'll define the apparatus behind it, this thing called LensFilm and phantom operand. Then we'll see how movie tropes become diagnostic tools for reality. We'll touch on the physics of perception, how control has shifted over time, and finally, whether we can actually fight back through design. Let's get into it.
Okay, first up, the future is a MacGuffin, the ultimate distraction. Let's really dig into how this whole idea of the future works just like that glowing briefcase in the movies. It's this shiny object that promises all the answers and keeps us chasing, while the real machine is humming away in the background, tweaking our reality.
So, here's the main takeaway, the thing you really need to get. The story isn't about where we're going. It's all about how our perception is being tuned right now. The goal isn't to predict the future. The real prize is calibration. It's about setting us up so that whatever comes next, whether it's a new piece of tech or a crazy political change, it already feels, well, normal, plausible, like it was always meant to be. The system is basically getting us ready to accept whatever's on the horizon.
Okay, so if our perception is getting tuned, you have to ask, what's the machine doing the tuning? Well, to get a handle on that, we need to break down the two key ideas at the heart of this whole theory, LensFilm and phantom operand. All right, first up is LensFilm. Now, it's really tempting to just think of this as a metaphor for the media, but try to resist that. The theory asks us to imagine it as something almost physical, like a thin, dreamlike film that's draped over reality. And just like a camera lens, it doesn't just capture what's there. No, it actively bends the light. It focuses things. It's constantly managing the distance between you and the world, deciding what feels super close and intimate and what feels a million miles away. So if LensFilm is the hardware, you can think of phantom operand as its operating system. It's this invisible pressure, this constant push to optimize everything. It's the reason the system automatically rewards stuff that's easy to get, easy to repeat, and super easy to share. And let's be clear, phantom operand isn't some evil guy in a suit. It's more like gravity, a natural tendency of the whole system to just drift towards whatever causes the least amount of friction. So where's the proof? How can we actually see this whole apparatus in action? Well, it turns out the evidence is hiding in plain sight. It's in the words we use every day. We can see the system working when tropes from the movies literally leak out of the screen and start becoming the way we describe our actual lives.
Yeah, there's a name for this, metaphor export. It's what happens when a movie trope becomes your go-to tool for explaining a feeling you're having. You know that feeling when reality just seems a little off, a little staged or edited. When you use a movie term to describe that, it's not just you being clever. It's a huge symptom. It's basically proof that the grammar of cinema has gotten so deep inside our heads that we're now using it to diagnose reality itself.
A perfect example is the word gaslighting. I mean, it comes straight from a movie title, right? And it describes a very specific operation of the system, what the theory calls dimming. This is when the baseline of reality gets shifted, but everyone in charge denies that anything changed at all. And the optimization? It's kind of scary, actually. It makes it way cheaper and easier for authority to govern when you can't even trust your own perception.
Or how about the Rashomon effect, from that classic Kurosawa film? The operation here is called refraction. It takes one single event and shatters it into a bunch of totally incompatible, conflicting stories. And what happens then? Well, it suddenly feels like you need a powerful editor, some kind of central authority, to step in and tell you which version is the real one. It creates a demand for a master narrative. And then there's maybe the best example, a glitch in the matrix. We all use this phrase, right? It's for that moment of frame discontinuity, when the perfect illusion cracks for just a second. But here is the absolutely wild part. The glitch, the failure, actually becomes a feature. Instead of breaking the system, it reinforces our belief in the system. That little crack in the code is what proves the simulation is real. So all these tropes we've been talking about, they're not just random. They're all powered by a consistent set of physical operations. Think of it as a vocabulary. These are the specific, repeatable moves the lens film uses to bend and shape what we see as real. So here's that vocabulary, the physics of perception. You've got things like dimming and refraction, which we just talked about. But there's also smoothing, which is basically erasing all the messy, irregular bits to make a story fit a nice, clean template. Or looping, which traps us in a replay to train our habits. Just think about TikTok trends or viral GIF. And then there's a really subtle one, latent activation. That's where a script, a certain way of behaving, is just hidden away, waiting for the right trigger in the news to suddenly activate it. And this is just a handful of them. All right, let's talk about how this has changed over time. Because this apparatus, this whole system, it's not static. The control over that lens, the power to decide what feels close and what feels far away, has actually migrated. It's moved from these huge, powerful institutions and landed right in our own laps. You can see this migration pretty clearly over the decades. Back in the 40s, it was the big Hollywood studios. They manufactured glamour, right? They controlled everything, creating this perfect, untouchable distance. Then you jump to the 80s and the paparazzi show up, and they just puncture that whole illusion with this raw, unauthorized intimacy. Fast forward to the 2010s, and social media platforms basically turn that into an industry, making everyone available all the time. And that leads us straight to now, the 2020s, where we do it to ourselves. We've all become our own content producers, our own PR agents. And this is where it gets really tricky. Even when we get wise to the system, our awareness just gets sucked right back in. Disenchantment becomes its own brand. Think about it. All this content that's sold to us as raw, uncut, no filter. We're buying the feeling of authenticity, the feeling that we're finally seeing behind the curtain. But really, it's just another genre, another performance. And that underlying pressure to optimize, the phantom operant is still there, running the show just like always. Okay, so this all sounds pretty bleak, right? The big question is, how do you fight back against something like this? Is it even possible? Well, the theory has an interesting answer. It says resistance isn't about being a better person or just throwing your phone in a lake. It's about something else entirely. It's about engineering. It's about design. Look, we're probably not going to escape the lens completely. The goal isn't to somehow get outside of it all. The real point is to design new kinds of boundaries, new interruptions that make that quiet hum of the phantom operant loud enough to hear again. It's about learning to recognize its suggestions for what they are. Not just the way things are, but a specific voice with a specific agenda. And this isn't just some abstract philosophical idea. We're talking about actual design principles here. Things like stop rolls, features that deliberately break the infinite scroll and make you stop and make a choice. Or pauses that are built in to snap you out of a hypnotic loop. And maybe the most powerful idea of all is reclaiming opacity. That's the truly radical idea that we should have a right not to be visible, not to be understood, not to be available to the lens 24/7. So that leaves us with one final big question to chew on. If this theory is even partially right, if our constant chase for the future really is just the ultimate distraction, the biggest MacGuffin of all, then what happens? What changes when we finally stop chasing it, turn around, and start looking directly at the lens that's been shaping our present this entire time?